Greetings, kindred. Helped made a deck tech a while ago that I decided to respond to by making my own. And whilst his deck was something that someone else made that works, I decided to show one of my decks that I made with my own brain, which is probably why it doesn't work particularly well, but it is goddamn fun. Do I recommend anyone play this deck? Probably not. Um, do I reckon it's fucking hilarious? Yes. And hey, if you do want to play this deck, or well, the main reason I'm making this is if someone gets any ideas from this deck to put in their own decks, that's kind of why I'm making it. Feel free to. It's a it's a wild time. So first things first, I should explain what the deck does. What is the core of the deck? And as you can see, it says Red List Abombwe. It's not entirely an Abombwe deck. I'll explain what that is in a second. The main idea is that it is a red list hunting deck. You make people red list, you kill them. Pretty simple. It interacts with trophies primarily, but it also interacts a little bit with the clan, which is Gangrel Tribute. So, by the way, for people who don't recognize, for people who may be a bit newer to this or may just have never used this website, this is Amaranth. Do I recommend you use Amaranth over VDB? No, VDB is a better way of making decks. This is just another deck making website. The reason I use Amaranth is because this is what I got into making decks on, so I just can't seem to use VDB for the life of me. If you're getting into deck building, use VDB, don't use Amaranth, but just to explain why this looks a little different. First of all, let's go through the crypt. As you can see, there are 6 copies of this. I will explain this card in a second. But from the top, Enkidu, 1 copy. He's got Celerity, Protean, Obfuscate. Those are the 3 disciplines we need. Plus, he's got +2 strength. He can enter combat with minions as direct actions. That's basically all he does. He's a big puncher. Has all the right disciplines at advanced. Jobs are good. Hartmanstover, same reason. He's got all the disciplines at advanced. That's literally the only reason he's there, just to pad out the crypt. Mugasaba, I'll actually get back to him in a second. Mitru, he has his ability's quite nice. He's got all 3 at advanced, and he's nice and high cap. That's the only reason. Luke Fellows literally just has all 3 at advanced, and is the cheapest that has all 3 at advanced, I believe, or at least in this grouping. Mugasabao. This is what makes the deck work. Or not work, as the case may be. Has all 3 disciplines at advanced, has advanced necromancy, which is actually useful for a couple of fringe cards, and most importantly, is a titled vampire. There is a card called Red List, which we'll get into in a second, which is how the deck designates people as Red List, for the most part, that requires a titled vampire, and he is a Gangrel Anti-Tribute, all 3 disciplines at advanced, and titled, and quite old, so he is good. On top of that, he also has this neat little effect here. Each time he commits Diablerie, which you are going to be doing if you're trying to burn red list minions, he gets +1 bleed. So he just, if the deck gets its engine up and running, he can just turbo bleed through everything. Now, the actual deck list. We'll go through the master cards first. Abombwe. This is a discipline trifle. This is to get a specific card. I only have 1 copy, because the idea is at some point you may be able to Diablerie someone who is older. If that is the case, great, you can search for Abombwe. It's not necessary, but it is useful in this deck for a very specific reason. There is only 1 card that requires it, but, you know. Oh, and you only need Abombwe at basic for the card, so only 1 copy of the discipline. Has to be played on someone with Protean. They've all got Protean. Jobs are good. Asher Tablets. I have 8 copies of Asher Tablets. It's a combat deck. It requires recursion. It also plays Parthenon, so it's going to be playing a lot of Master Phase actions anyway. So just having more Ashes to recur combat cards is always good. 2 copies of the Parthenon. We're going to be playing a lot of trophies and a lot of Asher Tablets, so that is a useful card. Useful in a lot of decks, but especially if you're playing heavy on Masters. Trophy Clan Respect 1. It is real great if someone is playing a mono clan. You can just, first trophy you fetch up is this one. If you don't have to search for the Diablerie, of course. It's a... I just realized, okay, for people who don't know how trophies and red lists work. So, there are cards called trophies. They are master cards. You can, if you have them in hand, you can use the master phase action to play one. Just hits the table. When it enters play, you choose a clan. But all the trophy cards do different things. They don't do anything on their own. When any minion burns a red list minion, which is just a keyword that a minion can have, they can take... their controller may search their library for a trophy card and put it on the minion. In addition, any trophy cards already on the table can be put on that minion, which is... Any trophy card on the table, its controller can choose whether to put it on the minion. Usually this is just the only reason trophies are on the table is because someone is putting them down themselves, so it's just a way to get more trophies at once. But yes, so that's how trophies work, that's how red list works. Very simple. Trophy clan respect, obviously you can just stop things from blocking. It's great if someone's playing mono. 4 copies of Trophy Diablerie, so that when you do end up burning someone through Diablerie, you don't get blood hunted, because it's kind of hard to avoid blood hunts when you've only got 1 vampire. Trophy Hunting Ground, just 1 copy, useful. A lot of trophies in this are not necessarily like must-have cards. They are like situational. Okay, I see that I need 2 blood a turn. I'm gonna fetch my Trophy Hunting Ground. Trophy Library, 2 copies. Plus hand size on a minion for free. What's not to like? Trophy No Questions. Unblockable actions. What's not to like? Trophy Revered for +2 bleed. This is how you end up basically winning the game by turbo bleeding your prey. So this is an important card to get pretty early. Safe Passage is, again, really useful. Keeps your vampires safe. 2 copies of Verlaine, because you're going to be Diablerizing people. So hopefully you'll be getting blood back up close to the top. So Verlaine's always great to get an extra 5 pool. And then we get into the minion cards, the action cards. Big game. Hopefully, if things work out well, at least one of your prey, or possibly your predator's minions, is going to be a red list minion. Through, as it's a way I'll explain in a second. This is how you get into combat. You play big game. Note that it is not a +1 stealth card, but that doesn't matter too much. We are playing Gangrel Tribute. We have Obfuscate. Enter combat with a ready minion. Basically, you punch. It's a bum's rush, but even better. You get an optional maneuver, and you unlock if you're still ready. The main idea is that you want to be using this to get into combat with the minions you want to kill. 2 copies of Demonic Possession, because Magur has Advanced Necromancy and can also unlock for free with both of this card and Instantaneous Transformation. So just being able to Demonic Possession those minions you just killed, especially if they're like big 8 or 7 caps, is really juicy. So Demonic Possession just in there for shits and giggles for the most part. Public Enemy, 1 copy, just as a fringe case of it's another way of making people red list. You can, if they're bleeding for 3 or are infernal or are anarch, you can just +1 stealth action make them red list. It's great. Now, 6 copies of red list. This is how you actually make people red list. You have to have a titled vampire, and then it's a direct action. You choose an ally or a younger vampire. They become red list. And they can't block that action, which is really important. It's good to get out early if you can. Now we get into modifiers. 4 copies of Faceless Knight, 3 copies of Forgotten Labyrinth. Go figure, I need stealth. I've got Obfuscate, standard Obfuscate cards. Instantaneous Transformation, 6 copies, because A gives stealth and B can unlock, which is really, really useful. Lost in Crowds, again, 2 copies, more stealth. Right, this is the Abombwe card. Taking the Skin minion. So, it has this little can cancel a frenzy card. That's not the important part. This is the important part. Play when this vampire burns a minion. So if you're doing your job right, you're burning redless minions. You put this card on the vampire and unlock them. They can bleed an additional time this turn. Remember, we've got instantaneous transformation, so we can unlock after the first bleed and bleed a second time. And they get +1 bleed and +1 stealth. But it's burnt during the discard phase. So the idea is you get a Abombwe and you start using this to bleed twice in a turn. Hopefully, you've also got your trophy revered, which means you have +2 bleed. So you are bleeding for 4 twice in a turn. If things go well, which they're unlikely to, but you know, it's a concept deck more than it is anything actually useful. Combat cards, it's a 5-card combat package. 30 in total, but 6 Amaranth for when you've killed them. 5 Dead Hands to get around Fortitude damage prevention, because we have Necromancy, may as well. 5 copies of Flesh and Marble, just to make sure we don't take too much damage, because a lot of the cards we're going to be playing cost blood. So we got Shadow Feint, which can't be dodged, so it gets around dodges, and it gets First Strike, which is really important because we're also playing Wolf Claws to get Ag damage. First Strike, hands, Ag damage. Where's the maneuver coming from, you ask? Well, we've got, hopefully, we've got Big Game, which gives you a free maneuver anyway. Obviously, this deck starts to fail when you get into too much combat ends, or too much, you know, they just have more maneuvers than you, or yada 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 yada. So it's not a perfect deck, but the general idea is your combat package is light, but you've only got 5 cards. You're likely to be able to cycle through them. In the current version of this is the first version of this deck. In the second version of this deck, there is basically no change except for the fact that all the Wolf's Claws are replaced with Claws of the Dead, because you can get a maneuver from it and you don't really need the press that Wolf Claws gives you. Claws of the Dead is the same thing, except this is instead you can get a maneuver. So it's just a little bit more flexible, a little bit more useful. But yes, that's the deck. That's kind of how it plays. The idea, again, generally being there's 6 copies, so you're likely to have in the opening crypt. You get Mugur Sabal out, and you just mark people as red list, big game them, kill them, get all your trophies out. Does it work? It almost worked in a tournament I was in, but unfortunately I was a little bit too late, and I got bled for the exact amount that I needed to die, and I never really got to fully get the engine up and running. But for the most part, I don't think it's a good deck, but I think it's an interesting concept, and I thought I may as well break down how it works and show people the general idea of what it does and what I try and do with it. I hope this was entertaining, if not informative. And yeah, I just thought if Helt was breaking down one of his decks, I might break down one of mine. I do occasionally get questions from the people I play with and a couple of my friends as to like how the fuck I come up with all this jank, because you know all my decks are fun jank nonsense, and yeah, that's, you know, this is the deck. This is one of my jank nonsense decks that is built off an interaction of I thought, hey, how am I gonna? I'm gonna be burning people. I may as well use Taking the Skin minion, and it's, again, I think it might work. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching. This has been my breakdown of this deck. I might do another couple of these on some of my more either some of the decks that I've made that actually work a bit better that people might actually be able to use, or some of my ridiculous decks like my Salubri Wall deck, which still traumatizes people to this day. I'm happy to report. But yes, that's all from me. I'll see you around.